Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Thank you for joining me for week 3 of my Stamp Happy Holidays series. And today you may recognize this card. It's a Christmas card. I showed this card a couple of weeks ago when we took a look at the Lights Aglow suite that is currently in the Stampin' Up! July through December 2022 mini catalog. And I told you at the time this card would be coming back. Now, every year I love to make a Christmas card that's gold and white. And so that's what I did this year. And I used the stamp set Christmas Lights for the image. It's right here. And the Brightest Glow stamp set for the greeting, Season's Greetings. And both of these stamp sets are part of the Lights Aglow suite. Now they also have coordinating dies. Here's the one for the Christmas Lights stamp set. As you can see, I used this outline die for the tree. And then I used from the Brightest Glow stamp set. I used the coordinating, here's the coordinating dies that go with that, and I used this long label die for right here. So after I made this, I thought, well, let's see how it would look, maybe in silver, because I also like to make silver and white cards for Christmas. But this Glimmer paper is in gold. There is no silver. It does come in a couple of other colors in sort of a vanilla and the Evening Evergreen, a very dark green. But I did have some silver foil, and this was in the annual catalog. So I used the silver foil, and this paper, this silver and white paper, it is currently in the Celebration catalog, and it comes at 6x6, and it comes with some gold. So there's the white and silver with the little lines in it, and the white and gold with the lines, and then there is the same, the white with silver with some dots, and the white with gold with some dots. But I chose the lines for this card, and I thought that looked really nice with the silver embossing and the silver foil. So then I thought, well, what else can I do? Let's go out of the box a little bit, at least for me. And I used some cherry cobbler. And this designer series paper, it has some little foil stars or snowflakes, whatever you care to call them. And it is part of that Lights Aglow suite. It's the designer series paper, and it's 6x6. There are several designs, but I thought this one was really pretty. And then I used, instead of using the cord, I used some of the ribbon that is also part of the Lights Aglow suite. And it's a vanilla color. So for the tree and the greeting, instead of white, I used very vanilla. But today I thought we would walk through putting one of these cards together. And I thought today we will try very vanilla with gold. So you're going to need, of course, a card base, and this is the very vanilla thick cardstock. And as you can see, I've already stamped my inside greeting. And it's going to be 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4, and we'll fold that and get a real crisp fold there. And then we're going to need a piece of very vanilla, just regular cardstock that's 3 by 5 or 3 3/4 by 5, and we're going to emboss that because that's going to sit on top of our gold glimmer paper. And this gold glimmer paper is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And as you can see, I have die cut some things out of that. This is one way to get a lot more mileage from your glimmer paper if you're going to use it for a mat. If these spaces will be covered up in which they will be. And what we're going to do right here, we're going to need that circle. And I cut this with the stylish shape dies, and it's the second largest circle die. So that is going to go on here once we emboss it. And we're going to need another piece of a very vanilla cardstock that actually it works better if it's like a quarter of a sheet. So if it's like 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, because what you can do is you can stamp your tree and stamp your greeting and then die cut those from the same piece of cardstock. So I was talking about how we're going to emboss this. As you can see, I embossed this white piece. I used an embossing folder called Bark, and it's currently retired, and somehow it got in my not retired yet bin, but that's okay. You can use any embossing folder you like. And so for this version with the very vanilla, I use the time worn type, and it's right here. It's subtle. It's quite subtle, and I kind of like that look of a more subtle background. And then of course our circle will go here, and then we would put our tree on it and the greeting. And as you can see, this die, it has 3 little holes, and it's 3 holes on each end. Well, I just ran some of this Simply Elegant trim through those holes and tied it in a bow. So you're going to need about 9 1/2, 10 inches of this. I gave myself plenty because to get these ends threaded through those holes, you really need to cut the end off just straight across so it fits in there without fraying too awfully much. And you might have to do it a couple times. So I gave myself plenty of extra. So right now I have, as you can see, I have the card base, I have the mat, I have what we're going to put our focal image on, and I have our die cut. So I also have our tree, but I am going to walk through some embossing with you. We'll emboss the tree. I also have the greeting, but here's the stamp for the tree. And if you're new to heat embossing, it's easy. Believe me, I don't do anything that's difficult. So you would just use Versamark, which is sort of a clear sticky ink. And then before you stamp that, we're going to use this, what's called an embossing buddy, or an anti-static bag, and just go over the cardstock. And what this will do, this will help the embossing powder stay right where the Versamark is and not go anywhere else. Now, Stampin' Up! In the mini catalog has introduced this Embossing Editions toolkit, which is actually kind of nice because for a while that they discontinued the embossing buddy, but they've brought it back. But it's with this, I called an embossing tray. I think they call it a powder pal. And then these great tweezers, because you can hold, when you go to emboss, use the heat tool, you can hold your cardstock with these, and you won't burn your fingers. Now I used to use a excuse me, a clothespin, but boy, I love these. So those I've really enjoyed. But it also comes with this brush, which comes in handy if you get some embossing powder where you don't want it, and you can just kind of brush it away. So for right now, we are going to have our Versamark on our stamped image, and we are going to stamp it. There we go. I know you really can't see that. And now, I know this kind of defeats the purpose of this embossing tray, but I do put a piece of paper in here because I just don't like to use this little thing on the end. This screws off. There's a little hole there, and you can dump your embossing powder back in the container. I don't care for that, so I just use a piece of paper. I do like that I can put my cardstock in here and everything's sort of contained. I do like that. So anyway, now we'll take some gold embossing powder. And we're just going to shake it over our tree, cover our tree. We'll pick it up. I like to give it a good little flick to get any off that may not need to be there. Of course, right now we're going to die cut this, so it really doesn't matter. And there's some, see, just brush it away with your brush. And there you go. And then, of course, you would take your heat tool and emboss it until it's that nice, shiny gold. I would do that, but it's, number one, it's noisy. And number two, I've got a lot of stuff here, and I don't think I could even get to my heat tool. So we'll just set that aside. And, of course, I do have the tree that's embossed. So we will just get ready to put this card together. Now I'm going to get my trim here and some paper snips. And like I said, I want to cut that off just straight across, as straight as I possibly can. And then I'm going to stick it through, and you can do it either way you want. You can go from the front to the back or the back to the front. It's up to you. It needs to go through 2 times. And then I'm going to cut it off again. Oops, I didn't get it straight across. There we go. There we go. I was working in the garden this morning and picking green beans and tomatoes and dealing with some potatoes and onions. And my hands are an absolute mess. I've washed them about 3 times, but I still see there's still like tomatoey, like green stuff from the vines on me. It may be permanent stain, I don't know. It's just that time of year. So there, and we will trim those ends later. First thing I'm going to do is take our embossed cardstock and take some adhesive and just go along the back here. Didn't quite get it there on the side. And I'm going to take a silicone mat and put it down because we have some gaps here and I don't want it to stick to the paper. There we go. And now I'm going to turn it over and put adhesive on here. And with this glimmer paper, what I've noticed is, and I don't know if it's because it's 6 by 6. Oh no, this isn't the 6 by 6. This is 12 by 12. But anyway, the ends, the corners like to curl for some odd reason. So I just make sure I get some adhesive on there really, really, really close to the edge. Oh, I did not get any up there. Put some in the middle. We'll get our card base. Make sure I've got it correct. Yes. We'll just adhere it right on here. There's just going to be a very teeny tiny border of that very vanilla card base. Now, we will put some adhesive on the back of this die cut. And we will find where we want to place it. And then we will put adhesive on the back of our tree. And now for our greeting, I'm going to use some dimensionals, which I had them somewhere. Oh, there they are. They were hiding under the silicone mat. Silicone craft sheet, I guess it is. And I believe I put like 4, because this is sort of a long label. I'll just take the backings off. Get that where we want it. Now it's time to trim the ends here a little bit. And there is our card in very vanilla and gold. I do kind of like that. Here's the white one. I think this is still my favorite, but I'm growing really fond of that. And then here's the silver one. And then here, of course, is the cherry cobbler one. Now, for my greeting inside, for that sentiment, you can, if you want to stamp with the Versamark and emboss that, you can. But what I usually do, when I have used gold, I use, I'll reach right across here, crumb cake inside. And it kind of mimics gold. It won't be like gold, but it kind of mimics it. It kind of fools your eye and, oh, you know, it's gold. But it is not, as we know, it's sort of a tan color. And then for silver, I use smoky slate. And it will kind of mimic silver on the inside. So, and then on the inside of this card, I added, because I had a little strip of this paper and a little strip of the Glimmer paper left, I just added that inside. And of course I used the crumb cake ink for the sentiment inside. Now, all the measurements and the supply list and some more pictures and a few more tips on making this card will be on my corresponding blog post. And that blog post will be up on Friday, August 19th, I hope. And I will have a link in my in the description of this video to my blog, and then on Friday it will be to the specific blog post. I want to thank you so much for joining me for my Stamp Happy Holidays series. And until next time, stamp happy.